Dust devils danced across the parched earth as a stagecoach rattled into Harmony Gulch. From its depths emerged a vision. Isabella, though the townsfolk knew her only as the Widowmaker. Her beauty was undeniable, a weapon as potent as any pistol. Emerald eyes, framed by raven curls, scanned the dusty street, taking in the simple buildings and the curious faces peering from windows. Whispers followed her like shadows. Tales of wealthy men, charmed and wedded only to meet an untimely demise soon after the vows were spoken, painted her as a heartless siren. Each death a convenient accident, leaving Isabella a wealthy widow, free to move on. Harmony Gulch was just the latest stop on her grim tour. She carried with her a custom-made Colt Peacemaker, its handle inlaid with mother-of-pearl, a grim reminder of her deadly profession, though she never used it. Her true weapons were charm, wit, and a talent for deception honed over years of practice. Her skill for lying made her a master of disguise, capable of making anyone believe what she wanted them to. The air hung heavy with the unspoken question, who would be next? Who among the town's prosperous bachelors would fall prey to the Widowmaker's deadly embrace? Her gaze settled on the town's doctor, Silas Blackwood. He wasn't the oldest or richest man in Harmony Gulch, but there was a kindness in his eyes, a gentle weariness that drew her in. He possessed a quiet wealth, earned not through inheritance or trade, but through years of dedicated service to the townsfolk. Silas, though respected, was a lonely figure. His days were filled with healing, but his nights were spent in the solitude of his small house on the edge of town. He carried a secret, a shadow from his past that kept him guarded, hesitant to form close connections. He was a good man, but had a dark secret. He used to be a gunslinger, but gave up his life of crime to start a new life as a doctor. Only a few people know about this. Isabella saw in him a challenge, a different kind of prey. His wealth was appealing, of course, but it was his goodness, his vulnerability, that truly intrigued her. She saw the potential to manipulate him, to twist his kindness into something she could use. She also saw a spark, a hidden strength that made him more dangerous than he appeared. The game, she realized, would be more complicated this time. Isabella's charm was a carefully crafted performance. She orchestrated a chance encounter with Silas outside his office, feigning a stumble and a twisted ankle. Her delicate distress was perfectly pitched, eliciting immediate concern from the doctor. "Oh dear," she murmured, her voice a soft melody. "I seem to have taken a rather unfortunate tumble." Silas, ever the gentleman, rushed to her aid, his brow furrowed with concern. "Let me take a look at that," he said gently, his touch surprisingly firm as he examined her ankle. Over the next few days, Isabella played the role of the grateful patient, visiting Silas for follow-up appointments, bringing him baked goods, and engaging him in gentle conversation. She listened intently to his stories, feigning interest in his medical tales and praising his selfless dedication to the town. She spoke of her own misfortunes, hinting at a lonely existence and a yearning for companionship, skillfully eliciting his sympathy. She was careful not to appear too forward, allowing Silas to feel like he was the one initiating their growing connection. With each carefully chosen word and gesture, Isabella tightened her grip on Silas's heart, weaving a web of affection that he seemed increasingly unable to resist. She knew his kindness was his weakness, and she intended to exploit it. Isabella was a master of mirroring, reflecting Silas's own values and desires back at him. When he spoke of his dedication to healing the sick, she praised his selflessness, claiming she had always admired those who put others before themselves. When he lamented the loneliness of his life, she confided in him about her own similar experiences, creating a false sense of shared vulnerability. She was careful to avoid any mention of her past, deflecting questions with vague answers and a wistful smile. She painted herself as a woman of mystery, hinting at untold stories and unfulfilled dreams, further piquing Silas's interest. Isabella also isolated him subtly from his friends and colleagues. She would often visit him during his office hours, drawing him away from his work and creating a sense of exclusivity. She subtly criticized those who questioned their growing relationship, planting seeds of doubt in Silas's mind. She made him think that everyone was jealous of their relationship. With each passing day, Silas became more and more enamored with Isabella, blinded by her beauty and charmed by her carefully constructed persona. He was completely unaware of the intricate web of deception she was weaving around him, a web that would soon tighten and threaten to suffocate him. A weathered figure, a man named Jebediah, arrived in Harmony Gulch, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. He was a former lawman from a town Isabella had graced years before, a town where a wealthy rancher had mysteriously died shortly after marrying a beautiful stranger. Jebediah had never been able to prove anything, but he never forgot the woman's face, the way she'd slipped away like smoke. He'd been tracking her for years, following the trail of dead husbands and burgeoning fortunes. He recognized Isabella immediately, despite the subtle changes in her appearance. Jebediah started asking questions, discreetly probing the townsfolk about the new arrival and her relationship with Dr. Blackwood. He visited the saloon, listening to the gossip and piecing together the story of Isabella's swift courtship. He was careful not to reveal his true intentions, presenting himself as a harmless traveler, simply curious about the town's happenings. He watched Isabella closely, observing her interactions with Silas, noting the manipulative tactics she employed. He knew he had to act quickly if he wanted to protect the doctor from becoming another victim. Jebediah's investigation was beginning. He knew he was running out of time. Silas Blackwood wasn't always a doctor. Years ago, he was known as Quick Draw Blackwood, a notorious gunslinger with a reputation for deadly accuracy. He left that life behind after accidentally killing a young man in a duel, a tragedy that haunted him still. He reinvented himself, studying medicine and dedicating his life to healing rather than hurting. He chose Harmony Gulch specifically because it was far from his past, a place where he could start anew. Only a few trusted individuals knew of his former life. His vulnerability stemmed from the constant fear of his past being revealed, a fear that Isabella could exploit. If his true identity were to come out, he could lose everything: his reputation, his practice, and the respect of the community he had come to care for. However, beneath the gentle doctor facade lay the instincts of a gunslinger. Years of living on the edge had honed his senses and sharpened his reflexes. He possessed a quiet strength, a hidden resilience that Isabella had yet to fully recognize. The skills he learned as Quick Draw were still within him. This gave him the ability to defend himself. He was still a gunslinger at heart. One evening, as a storm raged outside, Isabella and Silas found themselves sharing a quiet moment by the fireplace in his home. The conversation drifted from her carefully crafted persona to more genuine topics: their shared loneliness, their hopes for the future, their regrets from the past. For the first time, Isabella found herself dropping her guard, revealing a flicker of the woman beneath the Widowmaker facade. She spoke of her own lost dreams, the sacrifices she had made, and the emptiness that haunted her despite her wealth. Silas, in turn, shared a carefully veiled version of his past, hinting at the darkness he had left behind and the redemption he sought through healing. He did not reveal he was Quick Draw. In that shared vulnerability, a genuine connection sparked between them. Isabella found herself drawn to Silas's kindness and genuine concern, feelings she hadn't experienced in years. Silas, in turn, saw beyond Isabella's beauty and charm, glimpsing a wounded soul beneath the surface. The lines between her calculated plan and her genuine emotions began to blur. For the first time, Isabella questioned her motives, wondering if she could truly go through with her scheme. She found herself falling for him. She did not know what to do. He was a good man. Jebediah, seeing the growing affection between Silas and Isabella, knew he had to act fast. He approached Silas outside his office one afternoon, his face grim. "Doctor," Jebediah said, his voice low and serious, "I need to talk to you about Isabella." Silas, initially defensive, listened as Jebediah laid out his suspicions, detailing Isabella's past marriages and the suspicious circumstances surrounding her husband's deaths. He presented newspaper clippings and testimonials he had gathered over the years, painting a damning picture of the woman Silas had come to care for. "She's a viper," Dr. Jebediah warned. "She'll charm you, marry you, and then leave you for dead, just like the others." Silas, reeling from the revelation, struggled to reconcile the woman he knew with the ruthless killer Jebediah described. Doubt crept into his mind, poisoning the trust he had placed in Isabella. He tried to dismiss it, but the evidence was compelling. That evening, Silas found himself looking at Isabella with new eyes, searching for any sign of the darkness Jebediah had described. A subtle tension settled between them, a silent question hanging in the air. He did not know what to do. He was conflicted. He loved Isabella, but he also did not want to die. Isabella, with her keen instincts, noticed Jebediah's watchful eyes and his discreet conversations with the townsfolk. She quickly pieced together that he was investigating her. Fury simmered beneath her composed exterior. She found Jebediah at the saloon, nursing a drink. Her emerald eyes flashed as she approached him, her voice dangerously low. "You've been asking questions about me," she said, her voice laced with venom. "I don't appreciate people poking around in my affairs." Jebediah met her gaze unflinchingly. "Just looking out for the good doctor," he retorted, making sure he knows who he's dealing with. "He's none of your concern," Isabella hissed. "Leave this town, or you'll regret it." "Is that a threat?" Jebediah challenged, his hand hovering near his gun. "It's a promise," Isabella replied, her hand instinctively moving towards the Colt peacemaker hidden beneath her skirt. The air crackled with tension. The other patrons of the saloon sensed the danger and quietly moved away. A silent battle of wills ensued, each waiting for the other to make the first move. A gunfight was about to break out. The tension was at an all-time high. This was the start of the showdown. Silas, his heart heavy with doubt, confronted Isabella about Jebediah's accusations. He found her at his home, tending to his garden. "Isabella," he began, his voice strained, "I need you to be honest with me. Is what Jebediah said true?" Isabella's eyes widened in feigned surprise. Tears welled up as she denied the accusations vehemently. "It's a lie, Silas. A cruel, vicious lie. That man is trying to destroy us, to tear us apart." She launched into a passionate defense, painting herself as a victim of circumstance, a woman unfairly judged for the misfortunes that had befallen her. She spoke of her loneliness, her vulnerability, and her desperate need for love and acceptance, skillfully playing on Silas's sympathy. Silas wanted to believe her, desperately. Her tears seemed genuine, her pain palpable. But the evidence Jebediah had presented lingered in his mind, a persistent seed of doubt that refused to be extinguished. Despite her best efforts, Silas couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. He was not sure if he should trust her or not. He felt a huge pit in his stomach. The seed of doubt was planted. Seeing the doubt in Silas's eyes, Isabella knew she had to act quickly to regain control. She decided to push for a swift marriage, hoping to solidify their bond before Jebediah could further poison his mind. That evening, over a candlelit dinner, she took Silas's hand, her eyes shining with what appeared to be genuine affection. "Silas," she said, her voice soft and persuasive, "I can't bear the thought of another day apart from you. Let's get married. Let's prove to everyone that our love is real, that nothing can tear us apart." She also subtly intensified her efforts to isolate him. She spoke disparagingly of Jebediah, painting him as a dangerous madman. She also subtly criticized Silas's friends, suggesting that they were jealous of their relationship. She wanted him to only listen to her. Silas hesitated. Part of him longed to believe her, to embrace the idea of a future with her. But the seed of doubt lingered, whispering warnings in his ear. He could not shake the feeling that she was manipulating him. He wondered if she was only after his money. He was beginning to see through her. He stalled, promising to consider her proposal, buying himself time to figure out the truth. But he knew that time was running out. Isabella was closing in. Silas, now fully aware of Isabella's manipulative nature, decided to play along, using his knowledge of her tactics against her. He knew he had to be careful. One wrong move could cost him his life. He began to mirror her behavior, showering her with affection and declarations of love, but with a subtle detachment that she couldn't quite pinpoint. He agreed to her proposal of marriage, but insisted on a longer engagement, claiming he wanted to savor their time together. He subtly gathered information about her past, asking seemingly innocent questions about her previous life, watching for any slip-ups in her carefully constructed stories. He acted as if he believed everything she said, but his mind was working, piecing together the fragments of truth he could glean. He also started reaching out to his old friends, subtly repairing the relationships Isabella had tried to sever. He knew he needed allies if he was going to outsmart her. He was acting like a nice boyfriend, but was plotting his revenge. Isabella, sensing a subtle shift in Silas's behavior, grew increasingly uneasy. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but she knew something was different. The hunter was becoming the hunted. The tides were turning. A deadly game of cat and mouse began. Isabella, sensing Silas's change, grew more watchful, more suspicious. She started subtly testing him, mentioning details from her fabricated past, waiting for him to contradict her. Silas, in turn, used his medical knowledge to his advantage. He began researching poisons, studying their effects and antidotes, all under the guise of medical inquiry. He made sure Isabella saw him reading these books, planting seeds of fear in her mind. He also started feigning illness, complaining of headaches and fatigue, carefully observing Isabella's reaction. He knew she was watching him, waiting for him to become vulnerable. One day, he prepared a cup of tea for her, subtly adding a harmless but bitter-tasting herb. When she grimaced at the taste, he feigned surprise. "Is something wrong, my dear?" he asked innocently, watching her carefully. Isabella, now convinced that Silas was onto her, knew she had to act first. She started plotting his demise, carefully considering her options. She had to be clever, she had to be careful, she had to make it look like an accident. The game was on, and the stakes were higher than ever. She knew this was going to be a battle of wits. The climax arrived on a stormy night, mirroring the night their connection had first sparked. Isabella, believing she had the upper hand, prepared a poisoned drink for Silas, disguising the lethal substance with his favorite brandy. As Silas raised a glass to his lips, he stopped, his eyes meeting hers. "I know what you are, Isabella," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I know about your husbands, about the fortunes you've amassed, and I know about the poison in this drink." Isabella's face paled, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. She denied it at first, but Silas presented his evidence. Her inconsistencies, her suspicious behavior, and the knowledge he had gleaned from his medical research. Then, Silas revealed his own secret weapon. He smoothly drew a hidden derringer from his coat, the movement betraying the gunslinger he once was. "You see, Isabella," he said, "I'm not as defenseless as you thought. I used to be quick draw." Isabella, realizing her plan had been exposed and her own life was in danger, drew her cold peacemaker. The hunter and the hunted stood face to face, ready for a final showdown. The clock was ticking. This was the moment of truth. A tense silence hung in the air before the storm broke. Isabella, despite her shock, was a seasoned gunslinger. She fired first, but Silas, with the reflexes honed from his past life, was faster. His derringer barked, the bullet finding its mark. Isabella crumpled to the floor, her Colt peacemaker clattering beside her. As she lay dying, she looked up at Silas, a flicker of regret in her eyes. I could have loved you," she whispered, before taking her last breath. Silas, devastated but resolute, contacted Jebediah, who arrived quickly. The lawman took Isabella's body away, promising to ensure she would be brought to justice for her crimes. Silas was left to grapple with the consequences of his actions. He had saved himself, but at the cost of taking a life he had almost come to care for. He was relieved he was alive, but sad for what happened. He decided to stay in Harmony Gulch, continuing his work as a doctor, forever haunted by the memory of the Widowmaker and the deadly game they had played. He was no longer quick draw. He was now a changed man. He would continue to help people for the rest of his days. Years passed. Harmony Gulch slowly recovered from the turmoil brought by the Widowmaker. The townsfolk, initially suspicious of Silas, eventually came to understand the difficult choice he had been forced to make. His reputation as a kind and dedicated doctor only grew stronger. Silas never spoke of Isabella, but her memory lingered in his eyes, a constant reminder of the darkness that could lurk beneath a beautiful facade. He dedicated his life to helping others, striving to atone for the violence he had once embraced and the life he had been forced to take. One day, a new stagecoach arrived in Harmony Gulch. A woman stepped out, her face hidden behind a veil. Whispers rippled through the town. Was she another Widowmaker? Had the cycle begun anew? Silas, older but wiser, watched from his office window, a sense of weary resignation in his heart. He knew that evil could take many forms, and that vigilance was the only defense. He hoped that the town was ready for whatever came next. He was ready to defend it. He knew that the town would never forget the Widowmaker. The end.